Hello and welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast. Now, my next guest helps clients bridge the gap between business and social media using social selling, social recruitment, and employee advocacy to increase revenues and profit. Using his international B2B and B2C sales, marketing, and general management experience, he runs training sessions and does consultancy, managing social media accounts for his. So welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Mick Adam.
Thank you, and glad to be on the show today.
Now, I know you work across many of the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, blogs, YouTube, the whole remit of content marketing. Now, what would you say are the required benefits or the unique benefits of each of the platforms for B2B, which is what we're focusing on? Because, you know, I know that lots of people are very focused on LinkedIn, but because you use the breadth of the platforms, I'm interested in which ones you would say are good for different things.
Well, actually, I would like to make a separation between two major levels of platforms. You have the platforms where people have conversations, and basically that limits itself to three. It's either LinkedIn, where obviously we are looking at the professional environment. We're looking at Facebook, which is more of the consumer, however, also B2B environment, because to a certain degree, people are going to check out your Facebook page as a company. They're going to try and find out who you are and what you are as an employer. And in the middle, you've got Twitter as your news channel. So those are the three, I would say, conversation platforms. Now, they don't work without content. And when you look at content, there are four types of content. There's text, which is typically your website, your blog, that kind of stuff. There's audio, which is basically things like podcasts. There's photo and video, and those then are being used as support, as content on the conversation platforms to actually create those conversations. So content is the conductive element to creating conversations. And depending on what type of content your clients want, you'll be opting for an Instagram for photos and video. You'll be opting for YouTube or Vimeo if you have longer videos. You'll be opting for podcasts like you have now, and you'll be opting for potentially a blog that you could distribute. And your social media platforms are the way to distribute and are the way to start conversations with your network and companies.
It's really interesting perspective that you have, that it's all about conversations and then kind of like using the tools to best initiate those conversations. Yeah, that's a good way of actually dividing the platforms, a good way of seeing that. So thank you for that. Now, we are in unprecedented times at the moment all over the world. So, I really wanted to ask you a question about how sellers need and business leaders need to adapt in order to ride out the pandemic, and in order to remain engaged with their customers, ready for when we're out of this lockdown.
Well, actually, these are fabulous times, if I can put it this way from a business point of view, in the sense that these are the times that you can actually have and need to work towards having conversations with your current clients, but also with your potential clients. It's the time to reach out to them, to have individual conversations, not to sell, but to start building that relationship so that when all of this is behind us and we all have time again to think about how we move forward as a business and how they move forward as a business. The thing is, we need to lay that foundation now and not when the crisis is over. I think this is the time you need to reach out to your people. You need to reach out to them with content. You need to reach out with them with empathy. You need to reach out with them with conversations. And that way you start building that relationship. It's not because COVID is here that we have to stop having relationships. No, we do the relationships a little different. And because we do them differently through Zoom, Skype, Teams, you name it, whatever technology we have these days, because it's all done
And it
by
seems that a
video.
lot of sales managers, the quotas are just remaining the same. There's a lot of mistrust now. The salespeople are actually out of the office and working from home. Are they actually working? And nothing's really changed. All that's changed is the kind of the medium that we're using, the channels that we're using. Do you think that that's the right attitude to have, or do you think, well, because we are, in unprecedented, we need to continue to build the relationship, but do we need to do it in a different way and have a different mindset or targets?
Yeah, well, definitely at this point, you don't have the mindset of, I'm going to be selling whether it's a soft or a hard sell. I think at this point, it's building that relationship. It's reaching out to people. It's letting them know that you are there. And yes, you still have your quota at the end of the year, but I am sure that everybody's quota will be adjusted. I think sales managers have to inspire their salespeople to actually have conversations and not talk about the quota all the time. Salespeople don't think of themselves like, I'm unemployed. No, you have an opportunity to reach out to your potential customers. You can do it in a somewhat more relaxed way, and you can make it really, really, really personal.
We're all kind of working in a mobile environment. We actually still need to not only maintain the culture, but it's an opportunity to really get your employees more engaged around this crisis. So perhaps give some examples of what people can do to bring people together, even though we're apart.
Well, I think this time is actually great for companies to get to start on their employee advocacy, and I'm seeing a lot of good stuff happening on that side. I'm seeing many employees that are willing to share messages from their company pages and so on in their own network. So we are and obviously those messages are often related to the whole crisis, but at least we're beginning to adapt a attitude, a mindset of, I'm willing to take messages from my company and share them in my own network. So the whole process of doing it is
like you say, there's a real opportunity here, through companies volunteering and really engaging their staff, talking about it on social media. And if the employees are buying into this kind of group effort around what they're doing for whether it's like in the UK NHS. There was this whole thing on the British Airways, all of their staff kind of volunteering. It's good, it's brilliant for the brand, but it engages all of their employees. They're all over, all of the free advertising that they're getting, that it's getting the brand out there. I think there's lots of things that companies can do in order to engage their employees around this crisis, to actually do things for the community, and also bigging up the employees that are actually doing things. I think it's an incredible opportunity that companies need to take advantage of.
Personally, I've seen a major increase in messages distributed by employees on different social media networks. So, and it goes in all kinds of companies. It's basically, it's the government that is actually triggering it. It's the private business. I'm seeing this at the telcos that I work with in Belgium, that they get their employees to share their content. And it's nice to see that people still are proud to work for those companies and sharing those messages in their network. And it's not bound by big or small organizations. It's a mix of both. And there's lots of great messages being distributed. Now, the big challenge will be after this. After the whole crisis is gone, are people still going to do the same? That's going to be a big challenge, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. And I think that the stronger the brand, the more engaged people are with the brand, it's much easier to sell. If you've got an engaged set of employees, then it's an easier job for salespeople, to go out and talk about what they're doing, not only in terms of their products, but in terms of their company as well.
It's a great way to build company culture at this point.
Yeah.
Even though we're all remote, this is where I would say the great companies will shine after this, because their employees will be even more devoted, dedicated after all of this, because they were never left out of the cold. Because I think it's a little sad that a lot of people have to lay off their salespeople. There's going to be a lot of negative in those companies when they come back. But the companies that are actually keeping those people in the loop through advocacy, through Zoom meetings that way, and build up that great culture, those are the companies that are going to make the difference when everything starts up again.
Yeah. So how do you think B2B sales has shifted? Do you think it's shifted enough to be buyer centric? And what do you think is working now?
Well, in all honesty, I still think that a lot of salespeople don't think buyer centric. I think a lot of salespeople are still being pushed by the company to sell products and services, and it's, call it box moving, whether it's too much we sell, we have a quota, rather than what does the client need. However, I think in these times that will help us change that mindset, because now we are much more at the mercy of the buyer saying what they want, how much time they have for you, and so on. So I think it's going to change, but it's going to change in the sense that how strong is your relationship? And I come back to the whole conversation thing, because that's going to be the key. And that is the major change that a lot of salespeople will have to go through, is make it back into, let's have a conversation.
And focusing on the relationship. What does that actually look like?
Well, it means, what it looks like is, do I get in touch by phone? Do I get in touch by mail? Do I share their content? Do I like their content? Do I have touch points? And do I add value to what they are doing today? Which is not any different than what it was before. But now we have that opportunity to shine.
But how do you know that you're adding value? How can you measure those things?
Very simply, there's when you add value, you'll automatically get a thank you, you'll get a thumbs up, you will get recognition from the other side in one shape or form.
Okay, so like bringing that back to social media then, and social selling, how do you actually use these tools in order to add value to the conversation?
Oh, there's a long and there's a short answer. The short answer is basically monitor what these people are saying, what they're looking for, how they behave basically in the world of social media, because social media in all honesty is fairly open, not to say completely open. And by showing empathy, by showing the fact that you see what they're doing, by replying with meaningful answers or statements or content, you'll be able to see that relation is getting stronger. People are going to be willing to take your phone call. You'll be able to set up a Zoom meeting with a client.
Like you, I often work with traditional salespeople that are not as familiar with social selling and social media, and using strategies to actually work with them either in group or kind of one-to-one, in order to bring them round, convince them that there is method in the madness, and it does bring results. So perhaps you could kind of give me an example of that you've worked with a company, exactly what you did and what the results were.
Well, okay. First of all, the first step I would always do is make sure that their online presence is as professional online as it is offline, because most salespeople are very professional offline, have a good business card and all that stuff. So let's make them look professional online, and not only on LinkedIn, but also on other platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Obviously, you'll be using maybe different types of images, different profile pictures, that kind of stuff, but make sure that you have an online presence. That's the first step that I normally take my clients through. The second step is basically saying, okay, who's your ideal client today, and who would you like to sit down with in a month or two when this is all over? And start reaching out to these people in a number of different ways. So what I take them through is, how do you start monitoring these people? How do you listen to what they have to say?
And it's lovely when that light bulb comes on, isn't it, really? And then, you know, like they've got the momentum then to actually keep doing it.
Exactly. And once they start seeing that those appointments are beginning to happen, that it is getting easier to get an appointment with people, because they've built up the relationship, then it ends up being, you know, much more fun, and you don't have to convince them anymore to spend 10, 15 minutes a day. Because that's the other thing, is when I walk into a client, they always think, well, yeah, you're going to have to sit behind your screen for 8 hours a day to do whatever you need, whatever you need to do. Well, the answer is no. The thing is, if you make a small routine that will take you 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how much you really want to give to it, if you do that routine, you will see the results.
Yeah, guaranteed.
That's what we work on. And when you see the results, you want to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm afraid we've kind of run out of time. How can listeners get hold of you?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn. My name is Mick Adam, M-I-C-A-D-A-M. Look me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place. All my contact details are there. From there, you can go to the website, to Twitter, to Facebook, you name it. They can get a hold of me there.
And yes, I would certainly urge listeners to connect with you on LinkedIn and see what you do, and kind of join in some of the great conversations. I mean, that's how I came across your activity on LinkedIn. So thank you very much for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast. I know that you've got a link to your website for downloads, and I will be putting that all in the show notes. So thank you, Mick, for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast.
Thank you for having me.